Hey everyone, now that the dust has settled, I want to shed some light on what really happened at the Commission in Montreal on April 16 and 17. As many of you know, we have had to take legal action just to attend these debates. In 2019, again in 2021, and now once more in 2025. Thanks to the precedent set by Ezra, not only were we able to attend, but so were other independent journalists. In attendance were the Counter-Signal, The Hub, The True North, Juno, Western Standard, and 5 journalists from Rebel News. If you remember back in 2021, journalists were limited to just one question each. This time, despite the Commission being fully aware of how many journalists would be present, they allowed one question and one follow-up per journalist within a strict 10-minute window per party leader. You won't find any footage from that night because we were explicitly told that recording was not allowed, and we respected that rule. Before the Q&A session began, all the independent journalists were lined up and ready. We came prepared and professional. But as soon as we started asking our questions, a few legacy media journalists, clearly unhappy with our presence, began heckling us and slamming papers on their desk.
Bonjour, Monsieur Jack Meeting, Alexa Lavoie pour Rebel News. Vous êtes député depuis 6 ans, ce qui vous donne maintenant droit à une pension. Avant cela, vous étiez député provincial. Autrement dit, la majeure partie de votre carrière s'est déroulée aux frais des contribuables. Pourtant, vous avez choisi de boycotter les conservateurs, y compris les médias qui penchent à droite comme le nôtre. Et vous avez appuyé le projet de loi de Justin Trudeau visant à censurer l'Internet. Étant payé par tous les Canadiens, peu importe leur orientation politique, pourquoi estimez-vous qu'il est éthiquement acceptable de marginaliser les conservateurs et de refuser de les traiter avec respect?
Je ne réponds pas aux questions de Rebel News parce que c'est un organisme qui fait la promotion de la désinformation et donc je ne vais pas répondre à votre question.
Hello, Mr. Singh. Drea Humphrey with Rebel News. Your party takes great pride in standing against hate such as white supremacy, Islamophobia, and online...
Sorry, I didn't get your outlet.
Drea Humphrey with Rebel News.
Okay.
Your party...
You know where I'm going to go with this, all right?
Can I speak?
Yeah, you can. I'm just going to say you know where I'm going to go with it, though.
Your party takes pride in standing against hate such as white supremacy, Islamophobia, and online hate speech. Yet you stay silent about ongoing attacks against Christians, even after Conservative MP Jamil Javani's order paper question revealed that over 200 churches have been targeted by arson and vandalism since claims of remains being discovered at former residential schools swept the nation in 2021. These claims have been disproven by bands that excavated and remain unproven by those that have not. Will you condemn the rise in acts of hate against Christians today and explain what your party will do moving forward to keep Christians safe from hate in Canada?
Again, thank you, but I'm not going to respond to an organization that promotes misinformation and disinformation like Rebel News, so no, I'm not going to respond to your question.
One Radio-Canada journalist even lost her temper, accusing us of stealing question time. We did our best to ignore their lack of professionalism and outright disrespect.
Est-ce que vous étiez vraiment dans l'émotion hier?
Mais je suis toujours dans l'émotion parce que je suis extrêmement émotive. Je suis
en tant que journaliste, on devrait quand même être
Ah non, moi je pense qu'il faut se garder indigné comme journaliste surtout. C'est une de nos qualités de pouvoir s'indigner et je pense qu'il faut cultiver cette capacité d'indignation. Okay. Sinon, ben, ça ne sert à rien, on prend notre retraite.
Pensez-vous que si on aurait osé faire un quart de ce que les journalistes ont fait pendant qu'on était au micro, que vous pensez-vous pas que ça aurait été rapporté dans les médias, comme quoi qu'on avait été irrespectueux?
Bien, c'est pas une question de si on avait fait un quart, ça n'a aucun lien. C'est que je vous rappelle ce qui est important dans une mêlée de presse.
Vous m'avez dit qu'on s'écoutait parler, qu'on faisait des monologues.
Oui, on fait des monologues.
Qu'on volait le temps.
Oui, parce qu'on a 10 minutes pour Pour 150 journalistes, on a 10 minutes.
Je ne sais pas pourquoi vous avez
Ça
le
me
ton.
choque.
Vous faites un...
Ça me choque. Non, je vous parle. Je fais pas de show. Il n'y a personne. J'ai pas de public.
Ben, le public, c'est les autres journalistes.
Il n'y a pas de public. Je vous parle. Il n'y a personne autour de nous. Il n'y a personne qui nous écoute.
En tout cas, votre manière d'approcher les gens est très manque de tact.
Probablement.
Oui,
et c'est probablement pour ça que je suis journaliste.
Ah, okay. We get one chance every 4 years to ask a question, and apparently that's already too much for them. Later that evening and into the next morning, the mainstream media completely twisted what happened.
I think we have to sort of address the elephant in the room. How are these people chosen to answer these questions? And I don't know if either one of you have an answer for that, but I think there will be people at home saying, some of these seem like odd questions. Some of them aren't getting answered. How come we've heard so often from this one particular outlet? Any idea what's going on there?
There's three right-wing, very right-wing media, we can call them media, websites that are present in there. They get in line to ask a question like anybody else. Their accreditation has been approved by the Commission of Debates. And so they get the right to stand in line and ask a question that they choose to ask.
Il y a des gens qui ont dit, mais qu'est-ce que ça fait tous ces gens-là qui nous arrivent de médias alternatifs? On ne tourne pas autour du pot, là.
Non,
c'est pas le même genre de journalisme que Radio-Canada, CBC, CTV, Globe and Mail et les autres. Alors on dit, comment ça se fait c'était presque disproportionné leur présence?
Well, there's only so much we can do to control free speech, you know.
I understand that.
And you gotta understand that.
But, lifeguards got to look after the pool, right? And the debate commission was set up for this, and people are now calling for it to be completely scrapped because of what we saw last night.
They claimed Ribbon News had dominated the first night, when in fact, only 4 of us managed to ask a question. Both Drea and I were completely ignored by Jagmeet Singh, who didn't respond to us at all. Drea's question went viral, and even Rosemary Barton from CBC was caught lying about it, saying the question was woven in some truth and some facts that were not true, which was incorrect.
In this case, you saw Mr. Singh, and this has been his position for some time, to refuse to answer questions. Rebel News in particular traffics in misinformation, facts, lack of facts, and as you heard in that question, which was woven with some truth and some things that weren't true. Yes, there have been burnings of Christian Catholic churches. Yes, there have been remains of Indigenous children found in various places around the country, which she misrepresented.
Drea was right, and CBC later had to publish a correction from Rosemary comments against Drea's question. But let's be honest, who actually reads retractions? Hardly anyone. As usual, the legacy media didn't bother distinguishing between independent journalists. They lumped us all together. And no, none of us at Rebel News asked a question to Mark Carney, despite what some outlets claimed. On the second day, the Commission's director, Michel Cormier, went on the media tour, including CBC, and openly said he opposed our right to be there. Watch for yourself.
With us to explain and also to defend himself, Michel Cormier, the General Director of the Leaders' Debates Commission. Mr. Cormier, hello. So how come there were 5 journalists there? I'm using quotation marks, who represented this media last night.
But because we lost 2 cases in court in 2019 and 2021. Because it's important to know that we had tried to prevent Rebel News from participating in these press conferences. Because I agree with Chantal that they are not journalists, as we understand it. But we lost those 2 cases. And for months, we've been communicating through our lawyers with Rebel and their lawyers to try to limit the number of journalists. So rather than risk another trial that we would surely lose, because with the previous 2, it would have been impossible to win this one. We did. We gave them 5 passes for the press conferences.
You say last time we were forced to have 11. Now we allowed 5 journalists to attend based on what?
Well, based on if, for example, we had said we did the evaluation and thought that 5 was still half of 11, then that would probably work. Otherwise, we didn't want to end up in court with another judgment forcing us to accredit even more. Is that it?
Around 6 p.m., Ezra patiently waited for David Cochrane and Rosemary Barton of CBC to go on a commercial break so he could ask for a right of reply regarding the false claims being spread about him and Rebel News. The exchange lasted barely a minute.
Hey, David. David.
Yeah.
Ezra Levant here. How you doing?
How you doing? I'm live on the air, Ezra.
Okay, well, I've come to rebut.
So I'm live on the air. Like, I don't interrupt your broadcast, and ask you not to interrupt mine. So I'm live on the air.
Can I come back and...
You want to get involved?
I'm live on the air.
Are you defaming me on TV?
I'm live on the air. And we're going to ask you to please respect our broadcast.
Okay, can I come back on and rebut some...
I am live on the air, Ezra.
Well, I think we have to correct something you said.
We have to interrupt the conversation. Please, thank you.
Did you see my challenge? My 98 challenge? All right. Well, David, I'd like to come back on and rebut some of your errors about Rebel News.
Yeah.
That's cool. See you later. Have a good debate.
Who can I talk to about that?
Ben, go into the media room, Ezra. Like, I know you're gonna, I know you're doing your thing. I'm doing a show.
But
I don't interrupt your broadcast.
Is there someone I can talk to on your team? Sorry. Is there someone on your team I can talk to, David?
David's in charge. Yeah.
Who is, sorry?
David's in charge.
Well, but is there like a producer or a lawyer or something? All right, this is my attempt to correct. All right.
They were clearly off air. You can see it. But their reaction to being confronted with their own disinformation was telling. They even called security as if Ezra was dangerous. Ezra then went back inside, and around 6:30, a journalist from the Hill Times, Stuart Benson, began shouting at him and making wild accusations.
Yeah, after you guys threatened to sue, so that's why they got the 4 questions, because the commission...
You're making that up. You're lying again.
When did the CDC get 4 questions?
Yesterday.
Yes, after they had already told it to you because you threatened to sue.
You're lying again.
I'm not. Because you're not. Don't you have a third-party advertising truck that don't take care of... How much did you spend on third-party advertising this election? Between Rebel News and Ford Canada, companies you own both of, how much money have you spent to influence this election? I'm assuming in favor of conservatives. How much have you spent? Like, you're a journalist, you must be honest.
Zero.
Let's clarify something. Rebel News is registered as a third party to protect our call center under election laws. That's where we speak with subscribers and donors, conversations that can sometimes turn partisan. As for Canada, it's a different group, registered as a third party with Election Canada to run paid advertising funded by donors who specifically support that cause. Donations to For Canada are specifically used for those ads. Now back to the event. Just moments after the heated exchange, and completely coincidentally, a woman approached Ezra to inform him that CBC wanted him expelled from the commission based on false claims that he had tried to interrupt their live stream. But Ezra had the proof that this was a lie.
Here's what's going on here. To my left, there's the room there where the media is gathered. It's where they can watch the debates. This is where the scrums are happening with the leaders. There was some sort of an altercation inside there in the last little while involving Ezra Levant, who is the head of Rebel News, and other journalists. Michel Cormier has escorted Ezra Levant out. His credentials, we believe, has been revoked. Earlier in this program, you might have seen sort of some glitchy video playing because we had to go to tape. Because Mr. Levant and his people came over with cameras rolling and tried to interrupt this broadcast.
Not long after, David Cochrane spread another falsehood, claiming Ezra's credentials had been revoked, and this, again, a complete lie. When Ezra re-entered the media room, Reporters swarmed him in a scrum, bombarding him with questions. Watch what happened.
And I've seen a full court press by regime journalists over the last 24 hours to bring in limits to what independent journalists can do.
You mean third-party advertisers, Ezra? Can you talk about the $180,000 you're spending to do advertising voter contact, both through For Canada and into Rebel News Network Limited?
See, you're wrong on that, and that's what concerns me, is that For Canada is a different group that was registered at the
$170,000 to Rebel News Network Limited. Is that not true?
You're getting your facts wrong, Justin, and I want to make sure you're careful.
What did say to you?
We were actually talking about the CBC, who want us out of here. The CBC want us kicked out. We're not leaving. The CBC were outraged that Mr. Cormier let us in. The CBC had 4 questions yesterday. Rebel News had 4 questions yesterday. The CBC thinks that's normal, and it's abnormal that we do it.
So was he talking to you about your accreditation asking questions, or was it about the incident in here right now, just earlier?
It was about neither. It was actually about, what's his name, the bald guy on the CBC? David Cochrane. Yeah, I mean, Cochrane wanted me kicked out. I ain't leaving. Cochrane's really thin-skinned. I talked to Rosemary Barton, too. I invited her to a challenge, and she declined. But that had nothing to do with it. Anyways, I want to get back to the journalism here, but it's a pleasure to be in the center of the attention.
As the debate began, we were still unsure whether Michel Cormier would reverse the decision, allowing 5 Rebel News journalists to ask questions, and instead restrict it to 1 per outlet, which would have been a direct contradiction of what had been previously approved. Or would they allow only 1 question per journalist? Soon after, we were told the entire scrum was being cancelled, clearly to prevent us from asking questions again. But according to Cormier, and I quote, they didn't feel they could guarantee a proper environment for the scrum. Watch.
I'm Michel Cormier, the Executive Director of the Leaders Debates Commission. And I'm sorry to announce that there will be no scrum tonight with the leaders, because we don't feel that we can actually guarantee a proper environment for this activity.
We knew exactly what would happen next. The legacy media would blame us, and they did. Look at the meltdown on Ezra from yet another journalist, this time from Ricochet Media.
People in this room. What journalistic reason could you possibly have the 13 people in this room? You got the Q&A canceled. Because of you, we can't ask questions on behalf of the public. Because you wanted to have a media circus, Ezra.
Not 13.
Yeah. There absolutely are 13 of you. There absolutely are. I saw Cian Bexty coming over to Ezra throughout the debate. Cian Bexty, who supposedly has a different media outlet, was taking direction from Ezra.
You're wrong. Cian Bexty doesn't work for Rebel News.
So why did he come over to you 3 times for direction during the debate? He showed you he showed you his phone, and he took direction from you during this debate. So I don't think that Cian Bexty is independent of you. I don't believe that.
Cian, because we're friends. You don't have to talk because we have people here, which is much less than the CBC does. You've got to control your emotions. I know you don't like me or Rebel News, and that's okay.
But what I don't like, Ezra, is you preventing us from being able to ask questions on behalf of the public.
How have I done that?
You created a circus here. Before this debate started, you created a security incident. You created a security incident before this debate started.
That guy from the Hill Times?
When you got into a screaming match with people before this debate started, and that's the justification that has been used to cancel the Q&A. So the circus that you created before this debate, I'm not making anything.
You know, it's okay for you to hate Rebel News or hate our ideas.
I don't hate you, Ezra. But you caused an incident. You caused an incident.
It's not true.
Well, you can say it's not true all you want. You can say I'm lying all you want. You caused an incident. There was a huge incident at the front of this room, which everyone here saw. You got yelled at to get out of the way.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, after you guys break Sue, so that that's why they got the 4 questions, because the commission.
You're making that up. You're lying again.
When did the CBC get 4 questions?
Yesterday.
At At one point, a cameraman who had already physically pushed Keen Bexte earlier did the same to my colleague Lincoln J. Since the cameraman was French, I approached him to ask his name and for which outlet he worked for.
This guy just pushed me, man. He's pushing me too. He just pushed me.
He didn't push you.
Yes,
He
he
passed
did.
by. That's
No, he pushed. He pushed. You were heckling yesterday, weren't you?
Yeah, it's a...
What is it? You know, you guys are so angry because once every 4 years you have some competitors. Once every 4 years you have some citizen journalists that you don't like, and you can't, even for one day for 4 years, you can't keep a lid on
And
it.
you guys have been swearing at us and yelling at us, and you take no
time?
accountability for your unprofessional behavior. When we simply ask questions you guys don't like, that's it. And you know that the other guy was screaming at us first. You all saw it. We have been journalists, and you continue to get the story wrong. It's on video. We've been heckled, yelled at. They're throwing paper in the back. You all see it. None of you are reporting it. And you guys are there's no trust in the media. Look in the mirror. My question.
Excuse-moi, est-ce que je peux savoir pour qui tu travailles? Est-ce que tu travailles pour Radio-Canada? Pourquoi tu te sens dans l'obligation de pousser les gens?
He tried to hide under his beanie, but Lincoln and I kept pressing. Eventually, the cameraman slapped Lincoln's phone out of his hands, sending it to the ground. Then Terry Gillen, Justin Trudeau's former lead media handler, now with Mark Carney, walked by. For context, this is the same guy who previously assaulted our former colleague, Keen Bexte, physically escorting me out of the Liberal retreat and cut my microphone at a press conference. As soon as David Menzies turned his camera towards him, Terry Gillen smacked David's phone out of his hands twice.
You touched me with that. I did not touch you, sir. You're a liar. You're a goddamn liar.
You're a liar.
Oh yeah, nice try. You just hit me. Look what you're doing. Look at police.
Monsieur Guillon, pourquoi vous avez autant d'agressivité? C'est pas la première fois.
Arrête.
Mon Dieu, arrête, ça va? Why are you feel that you can assault our journalists repeatedly? Mr. Gillon? Mr. Gillon? Why do you feel that you cannot be accountable of your acts?
We have it on video.
We have on video, Mr. Gillon.
The same Radio-Canada cameraman who assaulted Keen and Lincoln, he was later seen jumping into the Liberal campaign bus with his gear. Despite several clear physical assaults on our team, the police never intervened. Are you surprised? Now, let's look at how CTV told the story.
The walkway, and I think we have the tape for you right now because the Liberal bus was on René Lévesque Boulevard, which is just the street behind the camera here. And so as they were going out, they were being followed by some of those, as I mentioned, I called them earlier, some of those so-called journalists from Rebel News. And as they were walking out towards security, they were being hounded by them, being filmed by them. And these are just journalists who are trying to get back to the hotel tonight as there are no more scrums. And at that moment, you'd seen this clash between one of the members of Rebel News, and it seems like somebody from the Liberal Party.
So now you know the full story. And while the mainstream media keep trying to link us to the Conservative Party, let's not forget, under Erin O'Toole, we were physically blocked from covering the event. The only difference now is that under Pierre Poilievre, press freedom, which is vital to any democracy, has been at least partially restored. Don't forget to stay informed about the election campaign. You can stay informed at the website campaign2025.com. On this website, you will have all our story on this ongoing campaign, and you can also give what you can be a couple of dollars to support our journalism. Thanks in advance.